So with the crazy number of races, like a whole maybe 30% of the country just knee deep in racism, I'm thinking about how does that happen? Why do we have races still? There's one particular method that I want to talk about because I think it's what most of you have fallen for. Now, of course, a lot of it is just handed down generation to generation by parents. Your parent told you when you were a kid, black people are bad. Here's all this awful things about black people or Jews or Asians or Indians or whatever. And because they're your parents, you believed it. So that's one way. Or your grandparents or your neighborhood or your pastor, because you're children. Children are stupid. These are the people that take care of you and raise you, so you just believe them and you grow up with that hatred and you pass it on. Another thing that happens a lot, and I've seen it in my own life, is you have one bad experience with a group or a person, and then you apply that behavior and your anger about that event across the board to members of that group. I've seen that. You have a one bad run-in with an Indian person. You go, this is these Indians. And of course, it becomes a self-perpetuating thing because you have that one incident, maybe you have two, maybe it's the neighborhood you grew up in, and then every stat and every story that aligns with what happened to you that one time or that one year or in that one neighborhood, it becomes basically this self-fulfilling prophecy of racism. I think something we see a lot today, and is historically accurate, of course, is that your life isn't what you want it to be, and you need a scapegoat, you need a bad guy. And Hitler did it best, right? Like, it's the Jews. And people to this day still say it's the Jews. Right now, it's the Mexicans, it's the immigrants, it's the black people, it's the gays, it's the trans people. And so that's how they get you, because you are average. And you can't figure out why your life isn't better. So you need someone to point the finger at. And they go, hey, it's the trans people. Even though it's barely any trans people. Most of you don't know any trans people. You don't understand it. You don't know the science of it. You've never met a person. You've never had a friendship. But it's easy to point the finger at the other person as opposed to looking inside and saying, did I work as hard as I possibly could? Am I that smart? How much have I read? How much have I traveled? Do I show up to work on time? How much do I drink? How high am I? How healthy am I? What is my diet like? And supposed to looking at all of those things, it's easy to say it's the black person. But it's because you don't meet a standard. Those are some reasons. But the one I really wanted to address today is how the media has made you and keeps you racist, which has always been funny to me to hear the right go, it's that left-leaning liberal mainstream media. And I'm like, the media's never been left-leaning or mainstream. The media is racist. The media makes money, right? Which is not inherently leftist as far as actual people, the populace. Media is trying to get ad dollars and make money and make white men at the top rich. So that's not liberal. And they will do and say anything to get those dollars. It is media that pushes the lie that black and brown people are worse people. And because you see that all the time, you believe it. But because you want to see it and you keep watching, they'll keep doing it because they just want the eyeballs so that they can get the money. I noticed this as a little kid watching reruns of 80s shows in the 90s with like my aunt or mother. Almost every show, the top shows, black guys were drug dealers, black guys were drug users, black guys were rapists. And it was pretty consistent. And then as I got older and I looked at the stats, those crimes are pretty equal across the board of all race groups. You're always looking for citations, which you don't look up, and when they say what you don't want to hear, you go away. But check out Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow. It's a little dated now, but she cites a lot of things, and it talks about some of this stuff. Because across the board, we all use drugs and sell drugs and have domestic violence and incidents of rape and incidents of pedophilia. It's the same across the board. And also, you may know that there are a lot more white people. More than 4 times the amount of white people than black people typically. But when you look at whatever movie, whatever TV show, especially from that time period, there's a black man jumping out of the bushes to commit a crime, which doesn't match what actually happens in the real world because there are so many white people. Not talking per capita, but actual crimes committed. No matter what you're going to talk about, there's way more white people. Good, bad, otherwise. There's just way more white people. But when you watch the show and the villain's a black guy. But more than just a TV show, because hopefully some people are smart enough to realize this is fiction. This is make-believe. But the news. I stopped watching the local news a long time ago. In most cities, 60% of the news was black man does bad thing. Here's a black man drug dealer. Here's a black man drug user. Here's a black man that hit his wife. Here's a black man that hit his dog. Here's a black man that just got out of jail. And I was like, that's weird, because by the numbers, white people do all these things. They do drugs at the same rate. They sell drugs at the same rate. But I don't see them on the news. And then it really hit me when I went to Phoenix, and those same stories were Mexican Americans. And it was the same stories, but Mexican gang, Mexican drug dealer, Mexican rapist. It was like, oh, not only is this perpetuating racism, but it's region-based. Who are the people that you hate here that'll keep you watching our shows? And when I read the comments online from white people, it is just spitting this stuff out. And I tell them, actually, that's not true. I live there, here are the numbers, and I never see that. And they go, you're lying. I guess I make videos like this because it does change minds and hearts. People say it's a waste of time and brick wall and you're stupid. And I do think a lot of racism is just a lack of intelligence. There's a lot of low IQ. There's a lot of people that have not traveled and met other people that stay in their bubble. There are a lot of people who just don't know a lot of things, who've never had a conversation with a good person of another race or whatever. But for all the nasty hate that I get and will get, there are people who change their minds. There are people who get better. There are people who are #leaving MAGA, right? There are people who come to me 8 years later and say, I get it now. There are people who say, I'm so sorry. Some of those people are now marching for us. And I know that of the hundreds of people that will watch this video, and maybe thousands of people eventually, like 20 of you will have a change of heart. And so it's worth it for me to spend my time doing this. All that stuff is bullshit. And if you are a better person, just be a better person. If you actually think you're a good person, be a good person right now. You can just do it.